I would love if you can explain to me what the people is going to achieve there, for example, and how is going to be the format, how you can do focus a practical topic.
So the first one I think looks at the whole time management side of things, right? So it's it's basically looking at what's our default, how we function on autopilot, and re-evaluating this. So this means, for example, a lot of people's default is to start the day at whatever time they start, read their email, and go into reactive mode. So it's changing that to being more intentional. And also the default for people is not to take any breaks and is putting in breaks. So those are just like two small examples, but essentially the whole first part of the workshop is how to change the whole way people work. This is where it's very practical. And yes, and change it in a way that they become more focused. So it's by implementing certain things that are very practical, such as taking breaks and other aspects, it can help them to be more focused. That's sort of the first part. And the second part is when you're looking at what gets in the way, which is typically distractions. So it's great to have this whole system in place and be like, oh, I'll use Pomodoro or time slotting or what have you. But then if you suddenly get a bit tired or can't be bothered or distracted, you will end up on YouTube, your email, etc. So it's looking at why we turn towards distractions and what we can do instead of managing that. So I think it's extremely practical for several reasons because first of all, it's helping people to reflect about the way they work. They're so used to working in a certain way that they don't often pause and think, wait, maybe this isn't the most efficient thing. So I did this workshop or a very similar one to this for my co-working space. And I had one of my coworkers come to me and said he'd never thought about this. He never thought about how he managed his focus. He never thought about his energy. And I was like, he never thought about this? I think about it every day. How can you not think about this? And so just having that awakening, like that reflection thing can be great for people because some people are so in the loop. That's one thing. And second of all, it's okay, once they've reflected and they think, what would, their ideal day look like? How would they like to work instead? What's getting in the way? Then they can start to implement stuff. Maybe some people will just implement a small thing. Maybe others will take the whole thing on board. But we're essentially giving a bunch of different tools for people to use. So I think it's a very practical workshop. I don't know, Laura, your point. I don't think there's a bit of reflection behind it, but I feel it's a lot of practical things to implement.
Great. So first, the strategy. Why do you want to move forward and having a more focused or more productive day? Why, how, what? So designing your ideal day and thinking how it should look like, and then is when you can think, okay, what I can do to get there, and then is when it's time for implementation with certain tips, tricks to action, to make it actionable.
Exactly, it's exactly that. Like,
Give me one
why would you do
example.
it?
Give me one example of one exercise that I can do, for example, if I want to get more done in the mornings, for example.
Sure. Okay. So more done. That's interesting. I'd say be more focused and energized, and as a consequence, probably you'll get more done. Okay. Well, one thing I talk about this double time slotting, but we all know about time slots where you put in, like I'll do this from 8 till 9, 9 till 10. Da, 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 da. Now, what happens is often we don't look at the dynamic range, which is we don't look, it can take you between 30 minutes and an hour and a half, right? And so we often don't take the dynamic into account. So by thinking actually when you do your planning, by allowing that extra space, like min max range, and then a bit of break in between, it might not mean you get more done, but it might mean that when you plan those two things in the morning, you actually do them. So instead of planning 5 and being like 8 till 9, 9 till 10, 10 till 11, and then arriving at 1 and being like, oh, I only did 2 of them, I'm feeling like shit because you told yourself you'd do 5, you actually do the 2 things you told yourself. And because of that, you're more focused, you're more energized, maybe you take on another one. So I think it's less about getting more done, but it's about being more realistic. So that would be sort of one example.
Yeah.
Dynamic time.
And thinking about the process, I think it's important to think about the process from beginning to end. So the task is tied to something you need to do in advance, and it's tied to something you need to do after that. Otherwise, you will totally forget. So just the task, the to-dos, or writing down this slot at the end, this free time, like 15 minutes, that I totally forgot in this session, actually, and that's why I became late. it's as important as the session itself, right? If you don't have this action, or you don't take the time to reflect about the main ideas discussed in order for later to think about them, or at least to know which are the tasks that you will need to do in order to be responsive to the person, responsive to the project, and be on time, it's important. So if you don't have these slots, is, as you mentioned, okay, I have a free slot of 1 hour, right?
Yeah, I think
And Calendly here is helping, for example, because it allows you to say, okay, if you want to make a meeting with me, if you want to have that meeting, the calendar is only going to show those spaces that fits with the time of the meeting plus the extra time that you want to put before and after.
yes.
So then it's one thing. You will maybe put the meeting 2 days later, but you know that if you go there, everything will happen in a better way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think a lot of the time it's actually about allowing ourselves more space in our timetable and actually accepting to do less, but actually do it. Because a lot of the time we want to do these 5, 10 things, whatever in the day, and we don't. And then what happens is you end up on that busy bandwagon where you always feel you're not doing enough, you all feel frustrated, you always feel behind, you feel really stressed, you want to do more, it takes on to your night. I don't do that anymore. So literally every single day I achieve everything I want to achieve. But it's not because I'm superhuman. It's not because I work longer hours. It's because I underestimate what I can do. I'm like, I'll do these 2, 3 tasks. That's it. So that's helped me a lot because it means every time when I come home, I feel satisfied. Every time I'm like, oh, I had a productive day. And some days it's 4 hours and some days it's 10 hours, but it's every time achieving realistic. So yes, I wouldn't say it's about getting more done, but I would say it's about getting the right work done. Oh, and that's another point. And I'm not sure we talk about this in the work. Oh yeah, we do. Prioritize it. Exactly. When you have to do less thing, it forces you to really prioritize.
That's it. Yeah, I was writing that right now. It's like, if you want to do less, that means you need to say no to something, because it's the same things, but more time per thing. So which things are you going to say no to?
And
right?
that's a great exercise for people.
That
Yes.
means prioritizing. That means,
Yes.
hey, we need to prioritize, and we are very bad at saying no. I think why we take everything is like we need to say yes, especially in the corporate world. It seems like we need to say yes in order to promote or to be seen as the achiever that we need to demonstrate we are, right? And at the same time, it's like, yeah, maybe it's much easier to go and say, hey, I am having all of these things on my plate, that some of them are voluntary, some of them not, but I cannot say yes to everything. So if you hear that I'm saying no to the people, is because of that reason. So what we can do together to find response to the people, or how we can change the things that are out of me and my time and my productivity, so we get things done as a company level, not only me, right? So that is a difficult conversation. I think we are not prepared to have that, and we have not been prepared to articulate that kind of arguments. But what you cannot do, it's like, okay, the system is broken and I have to be broken myself just because I want to keep that.
It's about boundaries, I think. It's about boundaries and being assertive. So being able to sort of say no in an elegant manner. But it's harder in a corporate setting, and it's harder when people seek approval. So I've had people come to me and they're like, no, but I feel I have to say yes to everything because they were a woman, for example, in a high position. They think if they say no, they won't be seen as well. So when people overcome that and they have more self-respect, it's easier for them to be assertive and they prioritize their well-being. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It is sort of implied that we should say yes to everything. So it's kind of something we all need to learn, I think. I don't think it's natural for most of us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's really great from your part. Very clear for me now what we can achieve with your part. What about your part, Laura?
About this part, actually, it will be divided. Albert will start with this part of prioritization and time management. Katie will go more for the part of distractions, identify those. And then I will go, after talking this time management part, we will go more to the energy management part. Because in the end, time is limited, what we have, but energy it's really an interesting resource to work with because it can be renewed, it can be expanded. So I think putting people into context about that, and I refer to high achievers who want to do, they're hardwired to do more and more, and being conscious about what's the effect in terms of energy. This will be to start the context about it. And then the main point here will be to assess what is their mental energy, their emotional energy, their spiritual energy that we were talking about, and their physical energy. So for that, in the exercise altogether, we will do an energy audit. So what things are really things, people, environments, everything, giving them energy for real, and what are they draining their energy. And for the ones that they are really thriving with, they will have to put some kind of a mark, like time from 10, 9, 8. So 7 is something that it's already not giving them that really energy that they want. And then I will follow with the ones which they are not giving them so much energy, which are draining them, to understand what's behind that. Because normally when we do things that are taking our energy, it's because there's some kind of benefit for us there. So to understand what is there and how can they change it. So with that, they will, I think that's also pretty practical. Here I will have to take a look to the timing that I have, because normally in terms of energy, we were talking, it would be very interesting to put the pillars in terms of nutrition, in terms of exercise, in terms of sleep patterns, in terms of stress management. Like these are the pillars of energy to really have good habits. So we have to see how much we can put in these 15 minutes, because we could do a whole session about energy management, but it will be mostly, make them conscious, make them aware about how they are dealing with their energy levels.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And this is the kind of framework we provide in Ignite. Actually, coming out of just a simple formula I made up in this kind of inspiration moment, but at the end is describing the energy over time, and how do you manage that energy, because the biorhythm of everyone is different first. So the energy curve is different for everyone, and you need to put the daily hours in the right point of the curve so you get the maximum area behind and below. So that's theory of integrals is pure mathematical theory, but at the end, the most energy you can put in the hours you are awake, the better. And on the other side, maybe the people don't realize, and that's for real, that curve can be modeled, and you can increase it, you can decrease it, you can expand it, you can put the right energy in the right moment. So you can even module the curve, even if you are a night owl, for example. I think that can be changed over time at some point. I wouldn't say 100%, but at some point you can make your body and your mind get used to another way of delivering that energy, in case it's better for you and the kind of work you do or the kind of life you want to live, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think that's true. That's really true.
And that energy audit, totally amazing. I mean, how you have described the topics that you are going to describe, how is the drainer, and then thinking, why is it drainer for you? It's a negative, I mean, it's a drainer that you don't want, so you can remove, or a drainer that you really know why you are doing it, but you need to I think it's important to know which are your
that information has so much value for real. Like, what's the benefit behind? Because sometimes you just have to do another activity, which also gives you that benefit. And that's NLP totally, but it really gives a lot of information to people.
And this is coming back again to where I want to deliver my energy, because this is important for me on the spiritual level. This is important for me in the social level, but how is the energy balance? I mean, maybe I am delivering so much time in the social level, maybe, for example, just being in Instagram, for example, or having calls every single day with your family or with your friends. Maybe that part is in 100%, and you can maybe release a bit there. It will still be on the 100%, and it will be still in balance in these dimensions of wellness, but at the same time, you will be improving others that are important for you, for your success, for what you want in life, right?
Yeah, and that's something they can use like monthly, because it really helps me at least to know how I'm doing that month.
Yeah. And what about increasing, I mean, how it can help knowing those energy areas and auditing yourself where you are in each of them, how you can improve it. Imagine that you discover that you are really low on physical energy because you recognize you are self-aware that you are sleeping badly. You recognize that you get awake at the end, at the beginning of the morning, tired. You recognize that, so you can say, okay, in energy, I would say 2 out of 10. How you can change that?
I think for us, and we were talking before, Katie and me, physical energy is kind of needed before you go into any other things in coaching. So you need a balance there. If you see that the person is already burned out or is really bad in energy, you have to focus first on those habits. So sleeping, for example. A lot of people, they just don't think it's important. And it has such a huge impact on how do you work during the day. So changing the sleeping habits that the person have, it would be kind of one area which is really important to focus on at the beginning with any kind of client. Nutrition also, a lot of people, they have really bad nutrition or they don't have routines. That also helps so much the body to save energy. If they have breakfast, have lunch, have dinner at the same time, right? Physical, if the person is just not putting time on that because he's putting time in another thing, I think in terms of habits, it's very important to have a balance in all of them. Like water, for example, also that has such a huge impact in people. Incredible what can change. So for me, with a lot of people, I start with habits because it's the foundation.
So at the end, this is connected to habits. So
habits on a timeline, right? Because obviously habits, they don't build overnight.
Yeah. No, but I was exactly asking that, how you can change that. If you recognize that your energy in terms of physical energy is not great, what you can do. And it's like these habits, and at the end, maybe the nutrition, the nutrients you are taking doesn't allow you to have the full span of your day. The energy you need to deliver is not, basically it's not enough. Or maybe your body is not trained enough to deal with that physical energy, right? Or the sleep is bad, or you are not being hydrated enough. So
or stress, you don't know how to manage stress. Like, yeah, there's these main points that we would always cover.
I think it comes down to sort of identifying what is draining the physical energy most.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the time, especially with high achievers, is it's feeling of, it's a mindset thing actually, but that would be probably hard to cover in a workshop. But a lot of the time is it's feeling of not enough. So I've seen this with my clients a lot. A lot of the time it's overworking, hence the physical energy is low, because they feel they're not enough, because they feel they want to achieve more, because they don't value themselves enough. So I think working on that for a lot of high achievers that are overworking, if the physical energy is overwork related, it could be other things, it could be sleep and nutrition and stuff, but if it's due to overwork, I think it's looking at how can they accept to, you know, finish earlier during the day or work less hours. I have clients that are just, I tell them, so what would it be like if you didn't work Friday or Friday afternoon? They flip out. It's just like, well, I don't know. I think I'd feel really guilty, especially the struggling entrepreneurs that are beginning. They just really think that it's like a symptom of, I don't know, they feel very guilty about it. So I think sometimes overwork is really highly linked to mindset, but maybe that's a bit too deep for the workshop. I think nutrition, sleep, exercise, super important, helps a lot. But I feel the ones that have really low physical energy and close to burnout, there's a huge mindset about not being enough. That's what I see over and over again. That's all. I had it in the past. So
that part, again, related to our work is the same. I mean, I think we all are entrepreneurs ourselves here in the room. And it's like every single opportunity is life or die opportunity. So you cannot miss it. So you work until you get it. And if that means that on Friday you have not done any plan because you are working, and then on Friday something comes in the way, you work on it because everything, it seems to be like life or death for the company. And I think that's really biased. Mm-hmm. And that's why we feel when we are asked what if, the first response, the natural response is, I would feel guilty. I'm going to feel guilty. I cannot do it. I'm sure I will feel guilty. And then it happens and the world keeps moving and nothing has happened because no one is taking care of you until the next Monday in the morning. That's it.
Exactly. So tell me a bit more about this cultural workshop thing that you had in mind.